I want to get back to this idea of concentric rings that help all lead back to customer obsession, which is really the way that I'm kind of thinking about it as we're talking here is optimize for customer obsession and you'll optimize for revenue. But how you optimize in internally aligning is one, you started talking and you lit up about company culture. If we're aligning as individual departments, as leaders, down to individual team members, why is culture so important to this entire equation that gets us to where we are obsessed and focused on our North Star, the customer? And where does company culture play in all that?
Sure. Listen, company culture is so important to employee engagement, discretionary effort, taking initiative to go above and beyond what I call the extra degree of effort by folks. So all the way down to the individual on the front lines that are doing things maybe above and beyond their job description or the responsibility of their paycheck that the CEO never even knows that delights the client. You won't get that without a culture, meaningful culture where people feel valued and they have a purpose. I don't believe with any generation, any of us are just showing up to collect or want to show up just to collect a paycheck. You're going to get the minimal amount of effort if you have a culture that's based on that. If you have a culture rooted in your employees and making them first, our true north here in our sales organization is we want to create a winning, predictable sales organization where everybody feels valued, supported, enabled so they can do the best work of their lives. And the underpinning to that is ownership, grit, character, and teamwork. We talk about this in our leadership meetings ongoing, and we have a lot of vehicles to remind ourselves and our people, our sellers, that they come first. We want our sellers and our sales organization to feel like they're doing meaningful work and they're not just showing up to collect a paycheck, that they actually have purpose. They're making a difference. That's what we convey to our sales folks all the time is in our support organizations. Listen, whether the company is large or small, how you service, how you help, how you enable partner with that client in large part might determine whether that company thrives and stays in business or goes out of business. When companies go out of business, individuals are impacted, families are impacted. We don't try to go overboard with it, right? We're not curing world hunger by any stretch of the imagination, but it depends on how you want to build your culture and what lens you want that culture to look through. And so it's foundational in everything because if you are truly customer obsessed, you have got to create a culture where people are doing discretionary work. They're engaged at every level. They're not hitting the snooze button in the morning. They're excited to get up and get into work because they have purpose at the company organization that they work through. And they're not just going through the motions.
You know, and you said things in there. I'm sure everybody on your team feels like you have their back, right? A part of a culture is that you're not going to just do what's expected. You're going to take risks and you're going to do things that you think, because we all know we have to rewrite our playbooks all the time, especially in this day and age, right? Yeah. So we're trying new things. And if we feel like we're going to be punished for trying something new and it doesn't work, that's a part of a culture that fails. Everybody has to feel like we're all in this together. Here's what I was thinking about all throughout our conversation here. And it started when I asked that question of every C-suite executive that comes on to the podcast. What are your two greatest challenges for creating long-term sustainable growth? 120 conversations, I've had that question answered now. Not one challenge has been based externally. Culture, you control it 100%. Yep. Nobody is telling you how to define your culture. Nobody is telling you how to create your own internal communication systems so two different departments aren't going into the same client recommending two different things. Nobody's telling you how to do that. Nobody is telling you how to internally align from the executive level on down. Nobody is telling you how customer obsessed you need to be, how proactive you need to be at that. Nothing we have talked about on this entire podcast so far has been external, right? We
Agreed.
kind of tend to think of challenges like SWOT analysis, right? Where are the greatest challenges are going to be? Oh, our competition, what's going on out there, right? And market forces and dynamics and different things. But it really comes back to the fundamentals on how we want to build a business, how we want to operate, how we want to come together as a team. And my offer, right, does that resonate with you as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, again, it goes back to getting easily distracted, especially around the things you don't directly control. I always say, as individuals, we control our mindset, our actions, and our reactions. To your point, in a company, you absolutely control 100% of what goes on internally there. But, and you used a few examples, it's really easy to let your organization get distracted by the marketplace, macroeconomics, competition, so forth and so on. And now, going back to where we started this conversation, we want to keep customer obsession and the client at the center of the equation, but that's how we get distracted, is through all the noise that we don't control out there. Now, all of a sudden, we're off our game because the client now, unbeknownst to us, and definitely not on purpose, is no longer at the center of the equation and what we're doing. So I think you bring up an outstanding point there.